Hello, friends. I'm Kari Anderson. Welcome back to Kari's Confessions, a nonprofit exec tells all. I'm the principal of Incite Consulting, where I spend my days helping nonprofits build stronger boards, healthier organizations, and funding models that actually support the mission instead of exhausting the people doing the work. I spent 25 plus years in the nonprofit sector in leadership roles with 7 organizations. Now, I provide coaching and consulting services to ensure that nonprofits, like yours, have the structure, systems, and practices to do your best work. Wherever I go, I continue to hear that nonprofit execs need a space to gather, to receive tools, feedback, and advice that encourages them to stay the course. It doesn't matter if you're in a village of 182 or a metropolis of millions, nonprofit work is both gratifying and lonely. I'm here to make sure that you have a chance to breathe, laugh, smirk, and get excited again about the important work that you do. So today we're talking about something that every nonprofit leader worries about, but very few organizations stop to measure. Is your funding model actually healthy? Not, did we hit budget? Not, did our gala make money? Not even, did we receive that big grant? I'm talking about something much bigger. Can your organization withstand a surprise? Can you sleep at night knowing that if one donor walks away or one grant isn't renewed, your mission is still protected? Because here's something I say all the time. A nonprofit is tax status, not a business model. Having a great mission doesn't automatically create sustainable revenue. The funding model does. And today I want to help you think about whether yours is healthy. So I want to start with the wrong question. One of the biggest mistakes I see boards make is asking, did we raise enough? That's not the right question. The better question is, did we build something that can keep raising money next year? Those are two very different conversations. I think about an organization I worked with a few years ago. On paper, they looked great. Record fundraising, largest budget in history. Everyone celebrated. 6 months later, they were talking about layoffs. How is that possible? Because nearly half of the revenue came from one grant. When that grant changed priorities, everything changed. Nothing about their mission had changed. Nothing about the quality of their programs had changed. Their funding model simply wasn't resilient. Revenue isn't the whole story. Predictability matters. Relationships matter. Systems matter. So healthy looks different for everyone. Here's something I really want listeners to hear. There isn't one perfect funding model. A statewide advocacy organization doesn't look like a food bank. A museum doesn't look like an animal shelter. A startup nonprofit shouldn't compare itself to a 40-year-old organization with a multi-million-dollar endowment. Instead of asking, what should our numbers be? Ask, what does healthy look like for us? That's a much more useful conversation. In fact, one exercise I often do with boards is asking them to complete this sentence. We know our funding model is healthy when, ... The discussion that follows is almost always better than looking at spreadsheets because suddenly people are talking about risk, mission, staffing, programs, community trust. Those conversations matter. So I've got 6 ways to measure funding health. Let's walk through these areas I encourage every nonprofit to review quarterly. Not obsess over, just review. First, revenue diversity. If one source disappeared tomorrow, would your organization survive? If the answer is no, that's a risk worth discussing. Now, diversity doesn't mean doing everything. I actually think nonprofits sometimes chase too many revenue streams. 5 mediocre fundraising strategies aren't stronger than 2 really excellent ones. So be intentional. Second, revenue reliability. This is where recurring donors become incredibly valuable. Multi-year grants, renewing sponsors, monthly giving. Reliable income creates calmer organizations. Lumpy fundraising creates exhausted organizations. Third, runway. How much time could you operate if revenue slowly or suddenly slowed? Many organizations immediately answer, oh, we'd figure it out. That's not runway. That's optimism. Healthy organizations know their numbers. Fourth, fundraising efficiency. This is one I think gets misunderstood. Sometimes organizations brag about spending almost nothing on fundraising. This isn't always good news. If you've underinvested in staff, technology, training, or stewardship, you might actually be limiting future growth. Sometimes spending wisely helps you raise much more over time. Fifth, capacity. This is where my consulting work often begins because funding isn't just about money. It's about people. Do you have the right staff, clear roles, healthy board expectations, working systems, or are a handful of people carrying everything? When I walk into organizations, this is usually where I find the bottleneck. Not because people aren't working hard. They're working incredibly hard. They're just working inside systems that don't support them. And finally, relationship health. This one might be my favorite because sustainable fundraising isn't about transactions. It's about trust. Do donors hear from you only when you need money? Or do they hear stories, impact, gratitude, updates? People don't continue giving because they've received another appeal. They continue giving because they feel connected to something meaningful. So I'm going to tell you about red flags. Here are a few warning signs I pay attention to immediately. Cash anxiety, even when revenue looks strong. Emergency fundraising campaigns. One person carrying all the donor relationships. Board members arguing about fundraising expectations. Program growth without revenue growth. Staff burnout. Those aren't isolated problems, they're symptoms. Whenever I hear someone say, we're just so busy, I usually ask, busy doing what? Because activity isn't the same thing as sustainability. Sometimes organizations are sprinting because they've built systems that require constant sprinting. That isn't a people problem, it's a systems problem. So if there's one thing I'd love for you to take away from today's episode, it's this. A healthy funding model doesn't feel frantic. It feels calm. It doesn't mean fundraising is easy. It means your board understands the strategy. Your staff know their roles. Your donors trust you. Your systems support your mission. And your organization isn't one unexpected event away from crisis. This week, I don't want you to overhaul your fundraising strategy. I just want you to ask one question at your next leadership meeting. What's one thing that makes our funding model healthier than it was a year ago? And if no one can answer, that's okay, because now you know exactly where to start. Thanks for spending part of your day with me. If you've enjoyed today's episode, I'd love it if you'd share with another nonprofit leader who could use a little encouragement. Be sure to find me on your favorite streaming platforms, and for more tips and tools, follow me on LinkedIn or visit my website at inciteconsultinggroup.com. And remember, building a healthy nonprofit isn't about working harder. It's about building better systems. Until next time, keep making a difference, and don't forget to take care of yourselves while you're busy taking care of everyone else. Have a great week.